In our current game culture saturated with shooters and action adventures, it seems as if alternative genres like survival horror and stealth have been swept under the rug. There is the integration of these sorts of games as levels or features, but they're generally part of a larger, more classically popular style of gameplay. Old school stealth games such as Thief are being traded up for games that offer stealth as an option, but more often than not pass on the genre as a focal point for the overall gameplay experience.
Has there been a shift in designers' willingness to niche themselves into a single gameplay style, or is stealth gameplay just not capturing the interest of gamers who are so inundated by fast-paced combat and hack-and-slash gameplay?
If this year's E3 was anything to go by, Slow and Steady is certainly not winning the Game of the Year race. There were many games at E3 across all genres that left little to the violent imagination. Even the franchises that have built themselves up on the stealth genre like Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell and Hitman were action-packed versions of their former selves.
We wanted to know if there was still a place for stealth gameplay in today's environment, or if stealth enthusiasts will just be left with Thief replays to keep them company.
You can trace the evolution of the genre. In Thief, it really was, like, the ideal was that no one in the game world knew you were even there. It was be the shadow. It's just not as visceral. I mean, there is a certain part of the audience that clearly wants that visceral experience of, that catharsis, that big moment there, when you sneak and succeed.
Fortunately, it isn't all doom and gloom for the gamers who are hoping for a stealth gaming resurgence, as E3 this year also brought us the promising Dishonored. The simple joys of tactics and gadgets are finding their footing once again in this supernatural world featuring stealth action gameplay. Similar to old stealth games, players are once again offered the chance to neutralize all of their enemies, including bosses, alleviating that guilty feeling of having conducted a widespread murder rampage. Dishonored is also notable for the range of decision-making it offers up to the player, which directly impacts the events in the game. Despite its stealthy atmosphere, Dishonored sets itself apart through the freedom it offers the player in choosing not just stealth, but any number of gameplay options.
You can not only play with combat or stealth, but you can also play very brutally and violent, whether you're using combat or stealth, or you can play non-lethally. I've said you can literally finish the game without killing anyone. Certainly the ideal player for Dishonored is somebody who wants to improvise and wants to find his or her own path through the world.
The stealth genre may have massive franchises attached to it like Metal Gear and Splinter Cell, but the amount to which stealth is the main focus of these games has been decreasing rapidly. What remains to be seen is if players see this as a good thing or a bad thing.
There will always be purists for genres like stealth gameplay who despise hybrids, but many gamers and designers alike seem to be warming to stealth as an option, not a hard and fast focus.
We realized that from the point of view of offering players a lot of variety, we needed to support more than just one very narrow style of stealth play.
You don't see stealth games in the same way you did before. What you see is stealth integrated into all sorts of games. That idea that players are in charge of the experience has kind of pervaded this business, this medium now.
There's three categories here, basically. One is the game heavily focused on stealth, where the fiction is about stealth and the mechanics are about stealth. Then there's the games that the fiction is about stealth, but the mechanics are not actually about stealth, they're just about action. What I would argue for games like Dishonored is that the fiction is about stealth, and some of the mechanics are definitely about stealth. It's just that there's also an option there.
As the games industry is, in its essence, a business, there are some stealth publishers who are adapting their franchises to appeal to the massive markets of first-person shooters and action games.
It is suggested that this is not a corruption of their stealth model, however, but rather the developers seem to be suggesting they're providing a different experience, perhaps an even better one than a strictly stealth-oriented game could.
With Blacklist, our game incorporates probably a broader range of gameplay types than any of the previous Splinter Cell. The shooting will be better, and your ability to take cover and throw grenades and use gadgets in an aggressive way will be improved. But at the same time, all of the abilities you associate with being hidden, and being stealthy, and not going to be detected, being non-lethal, all that stuff, all of that is there.
You certainly see games that incorporate stealth, which I find really gratifying. I think it's much cooler that players get to decide, as opposed to being told, no, you're not going to shoot things, you're going to sneak past them. That's not very interesting. But hey, you want to sneak? Sneak. You want to shoot? Shoot. You want to talk? Talk.
The issue then becomes, are these new, freer kinds of stealth games still really stealth games at their core, or does such a level of hybridization and player decision-making make that impossible?
It may seem as if large series that have been known for their stealth gameplay are relying on their reputations to stay in the genre, while if their newer installments were a separate IP, they may not be considered stealth games at all. Regardless of this, many developers seem to be suggesting that in their experience, this trend away from rigid stealth gaming is a welcome sacrifice for a freer play experience.
You're seeing people, clearly they're learning lessons from each other. They're borrowing and stealing some of the best ideas from other genres, and I think that's a good thing. I think that cross-pollination is actually just going to make games better, and it's going to keep stuff from getting too stagnant and from really ossifying into to things that are just one genre or another.
I was so frustrated with that team because I would sit in meetings with them and say, I'm just not good enough at sneaking. Let me use my sword. Let me do this. And they would say, no, if we make your weapons powerful enough that you can get past the guards using your weapons, no one will sneak and the whole purpose of the game will be undercut. And I sat there and going, all right, I'm going to show these guys. All right, I'm going to build a team. I'm going to make a game where you can fight or sneak past any problem. And out of that came Deus Ex.
Are you guys happy with the evolution of stealth gaming, or do you think the genre has been lost to hybridization? Do you think there's any more pure stealth games on the market? And what kind of stealth games do you guys like playing? Let us know in the comments.